I want to provide you with some instruction on some different watercolor things. You may or may not have these in your house, and that's fine. You do not have to go out and purchase anything. But if you have them, great, feel free to use them. One thing that you might have is called a watercolor block. And this is basically like a giant piece of water. It's not like a pad. You can't flip through these. There's actually this wax that connects all the pages together. And that's so that you can paint on your top page and it doesn't get the buckling or the wrinkling that might happen if this was just a free piece of watercolor. Once your painting is done and dry, if you go along the edge, in this case it's here, you could find there's a small section that doesn't have any wax on it. So I used my fingernail, or you could use a knife in order to find that top page, and then you can go and cut that wax layer in order to remove your finished painting at that point. Another thing you might have might just be a watercolor pad. And in this case, mine is just free watercolor pieces of paper. If you have a big one, you could cut it smaller if you needed to, as well. And you may get some buckling. Typically, if this was something we were doing at school, we would try to stretch it so that it remained flat. But again, not a requirement if you're just kind of playing around and working with watercolor. If you don't have any watercolor paper, you should have a mixed media pad. It might not be this brand, but I think that's what I provided you guys with, was a mixed media sketchbook. Mixed media is also very good for use with watercolor, so that might be something that you want to consider. You may get some wrinkling and buckling, but it's not that big of a deal. So that's a good option as well if you're going to work with watercolor or paint. And last but not least, if you just have a sketchbook paper will also work. You may get a little bit more buckling going on, but it's still completely suitable for working with watercolor.